Yeah, so from my end, it's frustrating to watch the missing generation of kids.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, was it 10 years ago that social media came around now?
Yeah, I would say it came into norm.
That,
yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And so that's where, when it came into norm, all the kids went to social media.
Right.
But for the longest time, Baseball Advanced Media, BAM, was centralizing everything to MLB.com.
Yeah, cease and desist if you see a post in the feed,
Yeah, which is crazy. And so then the kids just missed baseball. They just didn't have baseball on the timeline.
Right.
And instead they went to the NBA.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Well, it's
sports.
like the future fans of baseball, they're going to be exposed to their favorite player their first time through social media. I mean, that's going to be the channel they see it. They're going to see it on their phone rather than the television. And to imagine that there's not enough content right there, right? So when they can discover with a couple taps who their favorite players are, what their team's doing. So I think those are things that you see the stats will back it up in terms of what type of content's out there, but also just a gut feel.
Well, you have to make it easy for people too, right? Like that's the biggest thing about social media. You learn really quickly just by watching your own behavior.
Yeah.
If I'm scrolling through Twitter and I see a link to something else, I have to be really interested in that post to click it, right?
100%.
And if I click it and it doesn't load immediately, like if my internet's slow or something like that, I'm like, I go back and I keep scrolling.
Yep.
Same thing on Instagram. So it's really hard to get people to leave the platform.
Right.
And so where the eyes are, the large grouping of eyes, it doesn't have content delivered straight to them, they're not going to see it.
Yeah, that's the best way to guarantee somebody sees your stuff is put it in front of their eyeballs, right? Like don't make them go chase great content. And social media can get so much, you can get so much out of it, right? There's a lot of discoverability of it, but it's simply about being in the right place when somebody's ready to consume content. So that just comes down to abundance, right?
Yeah, no doubt. You try to, it's advertising basically for your product. It's just, here's a large set of eyes, large set of people that might be interested in my product. Let me put it in front of them and see if they like it.
Yeah.
Take feedback from that, tailor your content, your advertising to those people, and then you have customers, right?
Yeah.
I'm interested in your take on BAM because it did make a lot of money originally, right? So and this is, I think, something that people miss on social media because there's not really a direct way to monetize it.
Right.
So how do you value the money you can make by centralizing content, making people pay for it, versus the kind of nebulous benefit that you get from this advertising cost?
Yeah. If you're running around New York City and you're in the media buyer market, these media buying agencies, there is this norm, the traditional buys, like going and buying ads on one network for an entire year, right, to get a bulk discount. Like it's a lot easier with these well-established media buying agencies to see a pile of content, somebody that you trust is going to deliver time and time again, quality control, make an investment here. Versus social media, where you can drive a lot more engagement. There's a lot more channels, a lot more assets, but you have less control over the quality of the content, the type of return you're going to get on those things. So those buyers, it's easy to buy the centralized, the BAM type technology, or buying advertising here versus saying we're going to dump a lot of money into Twitter advertising or into Facebook ads and YouTube. So I think when you see traditional media buys in sports, the dollars go here, and that's why by centralizing it, you have a better chance of winning over these traditional media buys versus the new digital media buy, which is trending more towards Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they make a pile of money on centralizing it, right? But then you miss out on the fan base. Like, so how do you even measure like what that's worth? I mean, if you look at NBA stars, right? I'm comparing leagues. I watch sports. I watch athletes and stuff like that. Like, I go down, LeBron James has 45 million followers. And LeBron James is the top of the top, right? In all sport, like he's a global icon.
Yep.
But there's not a baseball player that comes even within 10%. Is there anyone that has 4.5 million followers? Maybe you, Darvish, or Bryce Harper?
Yeah, you and Harper, and those two guys are up top.
I think Trout only has like 2 something.
Right.
On Twitter anyway.
Yeah.
So like, how do you measure the value of that? Because it would seem like if you put content out for free and you blow up your players and they become more popular, that brings a lot of value to the league. But is there a way to actually measure what that value is that you could compare to the actual dollar value that the BAM got for centralizing the content?
Yeah. Well, I think that they're starting with comparing player content to league content or team content. That's something that we track at Opendorse, and you can see just every time the same post shared by a player will outperform that shared by the team or league every time, right?
Crushes it.
The algorithm favors athletes, it favors people over logos, right? It's the faces in your feed that slow your scroll. And so for that reason, these numbers are insane when you see what a player posts. And so it doesn't take a lot of science to say that if these guys did more of this, it would help everyone, right? It helps promote the league, it helps promote the team, it helps drive that next generation of fans to follow a person who's going to lead them into following their passion, which is going to ultimately turn into that next superstar in sports. And right now, if you're scrolling through your feed, your hero, the one you're going to see most often, it may not be a baseball player, right?
Probably isn't.
It's probably going to be even more of an emerging sport, right?
Yeah. The XFL has been all over social.
Right.
It's crazy. It's halfway through its inaugural season or whatever, So.
But they've embraced that player personalities drive so much of your intrigue in sports. Now, think about this, Trev. This is an interesting thing for you too. You are the most active baseball player on Facebook. You post more videos to Facebook than anyone in Major League Baseball, and you're one of the more active on Facebook of all pro sports, right? But only 6% of MLB players have a Facebook page.
Which is crazy to me because Facebook demographically is skewed very much towards the demographic of baseball.
Right.
It's a lot of older people, not older, but 40s, 50s, like that kind of age group of people. So you would think that that's where a lot of baseball fans reside.
Yeah. But it's not just about the age. Here's the deal. It's about location. You're talking about the international stars. So the most engaged athlete on Facebook last year, MLB player, is, I'm going to say his name way wrong, Wayne Chen.
Wei-Yin Chen?
Yeah, Wei-Yin Chen, yeah. Number one. Could you imagine that? But he posts and he reaches that international audience, which there's 2 billion users of Facebook worldwide. So it's a sheer numbers play, right? Instagram on a good day, you're talking about maybe close to 1 billion. Twitter on a good day, you're talking about 250 million, right? So you're talking about an audience that's 8 times larger than Twitter, and yet 6% of players are embracing that. Now, Facebook's not necessarily cool in the culture, but if you're talking about trying to bring this game to the next level, it's about understanding each platform has a place.
Yeah.
And if you can have a presence in each platform, you can reach a different audience a different way. But it's not just one, it's all of them are going to help target different groups that need to be reintroduced to this new era of baseball.
How much have you, I have so many questions that I want to ask.
Yeah.
And the one that immediately comes to mind is, if we're talking about audience and worldwide audience, obviously China has social media restrictions and it's a different platform there and stuff, right? How many athletes have you seen actually engage on like Chinese specific
like Weibo
platforms?
and things like that? Yeah, there's Derrick Rose is one of the most followed athletes in all of China, and the Chicago Bulls, when he was on the roster, their team helped him set up a Weibo account because the Bulls are really big over in China because the Michael Jordan effect and what he did for that program and that franchise. So Derrick Rose has capitalized on that. He's the most followed, one of the most followed on all the China social networks. And he's not necessarily a recognized superstar today in the game of basketball. But that's another thing, is that there's those markets that by playing the numbers game, you can introduce yourself to a large amount of potential consumers. And again, that's not something you see a lot of the baseball community embracing, is that there's other platforms, other fan bases that spending some time there can generate a lot of engagement.
Yeah, so that perfectly dovetails into another question I had, which is, let's say you take 2 people. You got one athlete that just plays the game. They don't want to build their brand. They just want to focus on playing for whatever reason, and then they go through their career and they're done.
Yeah.
The next guy, and let's say they're both average players. They both have an average career. The other guy embraces social media from the time he starts in minor league ball.
Yeah.
Through his time in the big leagues, he plays about 4 years in the big leagues on average career, and then, then he's done. So they're both done at, let's say, age 30. What's the difference in opportunity for the guy that engaged on social?
Yeah.
What kind of growth can you see? What opportunities can that lead to? How much monetary value can that lead to?
Yeah.
If you just start doing something when you step into pro ball and you.
Yeah, I'll bring an analogy into it. Do you have a financial advisor?
Yeah.
Okay, so that financial advisor right now is doing something for you, right? He's out there working to make sure your money's going the right places so that when your career is done, you have something to show for it, right? And so that same analogy plays in social media. So if you don't have a financial advisor and you're just letting your cash sit there, and you're just hoping it's there when you retire, you don't have a plan for it, you're not setting up for long-term success, then when you're done, you shouldn't be surprised that, oh, that's all I have, right? Meanwhile, your social media and your brand that you're building while you're on the field is very much similar, where you can leverage this so it's out there building it. Right now, someone's watching your content. Like someone right now is watching a video that you produced and they're learning more about you, and you're sitting right here, right? So that's what these things could do, is that by just developing a presence, you're setting yourself up for an asset that when you're done, those followers don't go away, right? When you retire, it's not like your numbers go to zero and you start over. You know, and that's something that you have to think about. Your money count might stop, right? But your followers are going to keep growing. And that's the importance of building an audience that's going to last a lifetime, because that can turn into things where, you know, we see retired players. David Ortiz still commands, you know, $25,000, $30,000 for one social media post.
That's
right?
Nuts.
And that's something that he's going to be able to do that until he's in his late 60s. I mean, for the rest of his life.
What's the volume of posts that you see in that range? Because there's a model of, oh, I'm going to do a bunch of posts for a couple $100 and play the volume game, or there's the model of I'm going to wait and, you know, get the large deal or whatever. Like, what kind of volume do you see people in like Derrick Rose's status, or Dwayne Wade, or David Ortiz, or Bryce Harper like actually do in paid for post stuff?
Well, we did an analysis of every sponsored or branded content post on Instagram last year by every professional athlete. And those that you think, that's if you're using the proper tags and whatnot, it's going to show up as branded content. And you see the top in the world was Leo Messi. He was around 93 pieces of branded content. And we know that Leo Messi is close to $1 million per piece of branded content on Instagram.
Jeez.
So you can imagine that's just another world.
$1 million per piece?
Yeah. And that's,
my God.
But so that's a deal for these advertisers. So Leo Messi, I'm gonna go on a rant here real quick.
Please, I'm big on rants, so
all right,
give it
so
to
me.
me.
he's got 90 million. Last time, he's probably above 100 million now. Instagram followers, right? So when he posts a video, he will generate somewhere around like 20 million video views, right? The best video that you can see on an ESPN channel, it'll get close to 2 million, right? So when he shares a piece of content, it generates 10 times the engagement and view count of the largest sports media company on the planet. While he is a fantastic athlete and one of the best that's ever lived and played the game of soccer, he's not a marketer, right? And most athletes don't have a natural lean towards marketing. Some do, right? You're an example of that, and an exception to the rule. But those that have a profound skill set and realize that if I leverage my time doing this on the field and I have people to help me off the field, turn this into a lifelong audience, then I can make this a very sustainable career.